All right, guys, welcome to the Hobo Entrepreneur Q&A. We get a lot of questions from our subscribers, from our fans, and so we decided we'd come out here to this awesome desert and with the limo, and we would go ahead and answer a couple of those for you. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started.
Let's do this thing.
You ready? The first question that we got here is from Jericho, and it says, "What is your day-to-day actually like?" You can answer first, and I'll answer. Go ahead.
Sure, absolutely. So, I used to be a lot more structured, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And nowadays, I kind of roll out of bed, usually around 6:20, 6:30.
So early.
Kind of catch up a little bit. I'm not as late night owl as you. And honestly, my best hours of the day happen first thing in the morning. So usually between 7 and 9, right? My kids kind of roll out of bed around 8:15, 8:30.
Okay.
Between 7 and 9 are like my most productive hours. So I can do in 2 hours what I feel like a regular person can do in 8, right?
Yeah.
I can get literally 90% of my day done within the first 2 hours of the day. Of course, I do phone calls and other sales things and marketing stuff for the rest of the day, but usually my morning is sacred because I use my best brain power from 7 to 9 in the morning, and then after that, I wing it.
You're usually kind of home most of the day, right?
Yeah, I work from home, I wing it. I'm not really going anywhere first thing in the morning, so
Cool.
that's typically what my day looks like.
I'm actually pretty much the opposite. So for me, I usually wake up at like 8 or 9. I usually stay up till 1 or 2. My productive hours are kind of at the night, and I generally kind of wake up and check my messages, and I have a lot of messages from Nick, which actually it kind of helps me structure the day.
That makes sense.
I keep a very structured calendar, so I have like every hour laid out, and when I am home, I do work from home. I try to leave my house once a day, whether it's just to go to the movies or go out and eat, with my wife for lunch or something. But if I'm home, I'm generally kind of like, I'll go out and eat, come back and jam on my computer for a couple hours, back and forth. But I usually do this on-off thing where I have like 1 week home, and then I'll be on like a vacation or a trip for 1 week. So I just got back from South Carolina last night, and here we are filming today. And so it's kind of like a back and forth. I need that to keep my creativity alive.
Well, and you typically work like 18-hour days, and you just go. And then you just, boom, hard stop, and you take time off.
And I take a trip.
Which I think is fantastic. Okay, so the next question is, how did you make your first $100,000? Go for it, dude.
Slowly. Very, very slowly. It took years and years of building up, I guess just getting the business to a point where it was actually profitable and making money. I would say it took me 3 or 4 years from when I started to be an entrepreneur to get that first $100,000. But then the second $100,000 was like 3 months, and that's kind of how it goes. Is it's like this bicycle effect where like the more you pedal, the easier it becomes, and the more it goes. And so for me, it was like once I figured things out, like I look back and I'm like, man, we had 3 years of total pain, and the second 100,000 is a lot easier. The third 100,000 is even easier. It keeps getting easier as you get better at your business and as you grow yourself personally.
So I totally relate to everything you're saying. For me, my business journey has been 11 long years, and so for me, it didn't happen within business. It happened within real estate. And 6 months after I got married, we bought our first house, and I think after 24 months, I sold that house. I think I made $40,000 plus awesome cash flow. And so I feel like, and then I bought my second house, and actually with that second house, when I sold it, I did have a 6-figure check. That was the first time I had a 6-figure check, and I remember doing a dance when I got that. But besides that, I made 6 figures. I made $100,000 just in passive cash flow before that 6-figure check came. But for me, it happened in real estate first, and then I totally, real estate even builds faster and faster and faster.
Right, yeah.
But I feel the same thing in business.
Okay, so this one is, where can I start coming up with good ideas to start a business?
Dude, this one's tough.
Yeah.
I was so picky on which ideas I wanted to run with, and because I was so picky, I actually turned 98% of them down, right? And I regret for like 6-7 years, I only took the best of the best. And the reality is, it's less about the idea and more about the execution. And so I wish I had jumped on some of these previous ideas and got into it much faster. But I don't regret the journey that I took. I did take awesome opportunities. I remember my first licensing deal, and then we got in bed with Tolman Media and other licensing opportunities, other e-commerce opportunities. But really, I had a nice big drought where I just did consulting, which is great money and a terrible business for like 6-7 years.
Yeah. For me, I think it's always asking a question. What frustrates you in X industry? That's it. If you ask, in construction, what's frustrating? Ask a construction worker, ask a construction boss. What frustrates you about construction? With me, it was like brides. What frustrates you about planning your wedding? Oh, that I have to go find both a photographer and a videographer. That's very frustrating. And then, once you have found, okay, I know that what frustrates them is this, I can answer it by, packaging them together or whatever. And then the quick and dirty test that I was taught is there's 3 M's to see you have the solution. Now, is it actually something worth pursuing, okay? Margins. Are there high enough margins that it makes sense? Is it a $10 product or a $10,000 product, right? Mm-hmm. 2 is multiples. Can you replicate it over and over again without your time, like a product, or like contracting it out, like we talk about? And 3 is market. There actually has to be some kind of an existing market for whatever you're trying to do. It's a good thing to have a market. It's a good thing to have competition, because if you don't, then that means that nobody's buying it, therefore nobody's selling it. So, margins, multiples, and market. Once you've found the pain point, if it fits all those 3, you're good to go.
That's how it brings it all to a head, and it's money. Okay, so we got another question here, and this is a good one. I know you're going to have a good answer. Is college worth it?
Oh boy.
And we're both dropouts, so we got some baggage around that.
Okay, my answer is actually yes. College is worth it. A degree is not. So there's a huge difference between going to college and taking classes that will make you a better person. When you're 18 to 25 years old, I mean, man, like you need that information, you need that education. But take as many classes, history, business, film, science, anything. But you don't necessarily have to get a degree to get a college education. And so I dropped out after 5 years. I did business first, and then I switched to advertising, and then I switched to film. And guess what? My entire career is a combination of those 3 things. I don't have a degree. So I would say that education is worth it. And the education you get from college is worth it, but don't get a degree.
So I'm totally in that same vein. Learn how to learn. That's the only skill you need. Right?
It's true.
Luckily, I feel like I learned that. I did 2 semesters in college. I hated every minute of it because I hate the idea of having to do homework and it's like this made up figure, right? And so I learned quickly how to learn, and my learning has never stopped. So for me, college wasn't a good fit. And so in my opinion, I would answer no, college is not worth it. I don't think it's worth the networking. I especially don't think it's worth the time.
Yeah.
And so I got a lot of strong opinions on it, but if you go through 4 years of college and you don't learn how to learn, you're toast anyways. So honestly, that's like the most important thing you can pick up from college.
Yeah. Okay, our last question here is, what is your favorite investment? I imagine they're talking about like cash.
Yeah. So I love this question. I like the stock market. I love the down, the up, but I love real estate even more. Real estate is a huge no-brainer. Get $500-$600 a month cash flow. Pay $300-$400 down in principal. I get the huge tax benefit. As I earn more money, my taxes go down. So for me, it's an all-around winning asset.
I actually am not at all in the real estate thing. It's everybody has a different wealth strategy. Nick's taught me a lot about it. I think it's awesome. For me, I actually, and this might sound like selfish, but I like to put my money into myself. So like I know that I can create a business that will produce $5,000 a month for me, passive income, in 60 days. And so if I would rather spend some money on a vacation or a trip for me to go learn something or meet different people and just kind of like become a better person, more empathetic person, so that I can come back refreshed, hit the ground running for 60 days, build a business, and then walk away from it after that 60 days is over. So eventually I think I'll get into the real estate game, and because there's a lot of tax benefits, but for now I'm like, at this age of my life, I don't have any kids. You do have some kids. I'm like, I would rather invest it in myself, becoming the very best person that I can be, with the most knowledge that I have, and then we can go from there.
I love it, man. Okay, so bonus question here that I want to squeeze in here. Brendan, when did you feel rich? Like, when did you feel like, man, I've made it. I have, I feel rich. Not like, I'm comfortable. When did you feel rich?
So, rich is a really that's obviously, it kind of sounds like a snobby term. I think what the question means is like, when did you feel like you've made it, right? Like for me, like I do remember a moment when I turned to my wife and I was like, okay, I think that I feel kind of like rich. And what I mean by that is, for me, for some people, rich is like $20 million a year. For me, it was like $400,000 a year, right? Mm-hmm. like in actual income, not net worth. I was like, I'm okay with that. Like for now, for my current situation, it will change. But I think I had 45, 50,000 a month coming in, and I was like, I feel rich, you know? Like this is all pre-COVID and stuff, but I was like, oh man, like I feel totally rich, and I feel like I can book a trip. Like we literally, like with 1 week's income from a passive business I own, we were gonna book like a $15,000 trip to Africa. I feel rich then, right?
Yeah.
Like when I don't have to work ever, and I start to feel really bored and lazy is when I start to feel rich, because now I get to work. It's an opportunity for me to be able to come out here and spend my time doing the fun, creative things that I always wanted to do when I was a kid. What about you?
I think there were 2 times specifically I felt rich. First time when I felt total time freedom. And so I didn't have, you know, an obligation on a day-to-day basis. I'd say maybe 2-3 hours a week. And that's the only thing I did, and I felt super rich. I had all this time, right? And the second time, I did have a good flavor of that, because obviously in business, you kind of go, you know, low bandwidth, high bandwidth, and you just kind of keep going up and down the roller coaster, right? So the other time that I felt really rich was, you know, I actually had a huge surplus of money coming in. This was when licensing was involved in my life. We were closing like crazy. But I also, I mean, I was in Hawaii. I was on the phone 2-3 hours a day, so I was working, but I also had a lot of time freedom.
Yeah.
And I had the lifestyle. Like all of those things, I felt literally like, dude, it was like paradise.
Totally.
And if I could stay in that space, and I'm soon gonna get there, you know, for me, that was rich.
Thanks guys for joining us for this Q&A. We'll hopefully do some more of these, but keep submitting your questions and we'll answer them. One of the questions we get a lot from our subscribers is, where do you actually start? How do you actually begin to build a business? So we have decided to develop the 10-minute business challenge.
Join our Facebook group. We'll show you exactly how it's done, and it's 100% for free for all of our subscribers.